Hey guys, Dani here, and welcome to my little corner of the internet. This is the video that I promised you weeks ago. So if you are ready to hear everything wrong with music streaming services, give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and let's get right into the video. The first problem with music streaming services is that you don't own anything. Yes, the idea of paying $9.99 every single month to listen to any song you want at first sounds appealing. But when you really break down the math, you are basically paying $120 a year. And if you ever stop paying for this music streaming service, you no longer get access to that music. What else could you do with the $120 that you're spending every single year for nothing that is tangible? How much music do you actually listen to every single year? Are you listening to the entire breadth of music history that would make it worth the $120 a year that you are spending? Or are you listening to a small number of songs or a small number of albums or a small number of new music every single year, which if you had bought even just on iTunes, I know that iTunes is technically dead, but you know what I'm talking about, iTunes, or you bought physical CDs, you would not only be giving the artists way more money than you are if you're listening to them on a streaming service, because when you stream, they're only getting fractions of a penny. So when you really take that math and break it all down, how much is it really worth it? Oh, also, in the event that you, for whatever reason, no longer want a CD, say you bought it in physical form, you can actually get part of your money back by selling it online or selling it to somebody else. So you're recouping some of your costs, but again, with streaming services, once you stop paying, that music is gone and it no longer holds any value to you, and you can't get any value back. Problem number 2, it's dividing music. As I mentioned in my torrenting video from last week, there are a lot of artists who are signing exclusivity deals in order to gain more of a revenue from their music. This means that any one particular music service does not have the entire breadth of music. This is something that has never happened in history. Obviously, if some music wasn't released in a particular country, those people wouldn't have access to it. But I'm talking about, it has never happened in the history of ever that two people could stand side by side in the same place, in the same town, and have access to two completely different sets of music. Problem number 3. Could you be the product? How many of you actually sat down and read the terms of service when signing up for whichever music streaming service that you decided to use? Probably no one. Do you really know how much data they're collecting on you, where that data is going, what they're using that data for? When you do not own something, so if I didn't go to the music store and buy that physical CD, you don't really know what these companies are tracking, and it's not just Facebook that we need to worry about, it's every online service. Data is valuable. Data is more valuable than oil. Data is the most valuable commodity on our planet right now. Do you know what these music services are doing with your data? Problem number 4. They can take the music away from you whenever they want. Whether that be the time that Taylor Swift took all of her music off of Spotify because she didn't agree with their business practices, or it could be what I noticed recently is a Pussycat Doll album that I've had since about 2008. There is one particular song that is now missing from it. That song is Out of This Club by the Pussycat Dolls featuring R. Kelly. So that means somewhere, someone made the decision that I no longer can get the access to listen to an album that I have been listening to for 11 years, or at least that particular single, because they decided that everyone hates R. Kelly, nobody wants to listen to him anymore, So they made the unilateral decision to take that access away from me and never bothered to ask me. I already have an entire video about how I feel about the entire R. Kelly situation and whether or not I still listen to his music. But that's not the point. The point is that someone that I don't know made a decision for me on what music I can listen to because of changing social norms, because of new information, and I was never consulted if I wanted to continue to listen to that piece of music or not. Problem number 5. The algorithms are controlling your discovery of music. Now, at first, that doesn't sound so bad. But actually lately, I've been seeing a lot of articles about people complaining that there aren't enough women on these playlists, specifically on Spotify. They believe that it's Spotify's job to make an equal distribution of men and women on the most popular playlists. That is a problem, a major, major problem, because that affects Billboard rankings, that affects everything. And at first, yes, it might sound perfectly fine to, have men and women be equal. But then what happens when people start complaining that there's too many white people on a playlist, too many black people on, let's say, a rap playlist, and it needs to be equal? That means that Spotify or whatever other music streaming service that you're using would eventually get to a point where they're completely manipulating what you get to discover for the facade of equality, and not based on an artist's talent, not based on what you would like or what would best suit your mood, your needs, what you're looking for. It's all based on this fake wokeness and facade of trying to be equal. And like I said before, these rankings on these playlists actually affect Billboard sales and the ranking on Billboard, because every stream is a sale now, or a fraction of a stream is a sale, however they calculate it. So you're saying to me that because we decided to be equal, which is not really equal, because equality would be giving everyone a fair chance and not artificially making it 50% men, 50% women, that's going to affect people's careers, that's going to affect people's lives, that's going to affect the music that you see and hear and that is presented to you. That is a problem. Number 6. It is becoming a pay-to-win system. You can pay to be placed on playlists. You can pay to be placed on the front page of any particular streaming service. In the example that I used last week with Beyonce's 6th album, Lemonade, she owns the platform. Her and her husband own Tidal. So wouldn't they, I don't know, push their own music more than anyone else's music to put more money into their pockets? Probably. This is not an equal system anymore. There is nobody who's overseeing that everything is done fairly. And I'm not naive enough to say that people weren't gaming the system beforehand in the old music days, but it is not only a lot more easy to game the system now, but the people who are already at the top are so far ahead of the people that are at the bottom that they can continue to widen that gap, and the people at the bottom just never have a chance. Don't you want to discover the next greatest band ever, the next Marianas Trench, the next Justin Bieber, the next Taylor Swift? Don't you want to be on the ground floor of that? Of course you do. But you aren't in control of what you're hearing. You aren't in control about what's being shown to you. And the people with money get to pump out the playlists and everything else that will get them even more recognition than they already started with. Problem number 7, and probably the most scary prospect to all of this. What happens if one of these companies shuts down? Are you as the consumer going to remember every song you ever saved or downloaded on any particular streaming service? Are you going to take the time, if you go over to a different streaming service, to download or save all of that new music? No, you probably aren't. And that is lost revenue for the artist, that is lost engagement, that is lost fanship. That's the kind of stuff that destroys people's careers. And as much as we tried and say, oh, these companies are too big to fail. MySpace used to be the biggest social media platform out there. It's gone. You never know when these things are going to go away. And on top of that, what happens, again, to your data if this company is shutting down? What happens to the money they should be paying out to artists? Will they actually get that money? We don't know. We have never been in this situation. There has never really been a major streaming service that has shut down yet. But at some point, it will happen. And when it does happen, have we prepared ourselves for that? Have we asked the proper questions to know what to keep ourselves safe, for the artists to keep their music safe? Because what about the music that maybe only lives on Spotify, for example? A young and up-and-coming artist who doesn't have the money to put their song on every platform, what if they only put it on Spotify? And what if Spotify shuts down? What happens to that music? Is that music just gone to the ether? Probably. So these are all of the things that we need to be thinking about when we just bravely jump into new technology. And obviously streaming is not new at this point, but it's been a giant shift in the music landscape. I'm not saying that we should boycott music streaming services. Like I've said many times, I use Apple Music. But the more that I look into this stuff, the more disillusioned that I get, and the more questions that I have that have not been answered. So I pass the question off to you. What do you think about everything that I presented to you in this video? Do you think I missed anything? If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. I will see you guys again next week. Bye.